action item with 3 public comment cards. So prior to that, I'm just going to knock off 1614 because I better, I'm sorry to say, which is an update on the board's response to the Public Records Act request to the Contra Costa Times and Dan Borenstein. And I'd just like to say, because it's information, I don't want to postpone it and end up in the Times again, is that we did get an outside attorney who came in and took documents from Mr. Rowland and worked over several days. The attorney began work on a report to categorize those documents. Mr. Rowland sent some additional documents to her, I understand, from the attorney, and so she was working on categorizing those, and so she is finalizing her report and will submit that to the Board of Education for next steps.
I have a question. I was wondering what the firm was that you and Ms. Oaks contracted with.
Well, actually it's a confidential thing with the board, but I did ask the attorney for permission, and it's Thomas Griffin is the law firm who is handling the entire case. And Mr. Griffin had some surgery and had to get a second attorney to come in from Sacramento and handle the confidential records issue. So Thomas Griffin is the law firm, and it's fine with him to release that information for the public.
I wouldn't have expected that was a closed session.
Well, it's an attorney-client issue, and truly you're supposed to have the attorney's permission, which I sought, and he said fine. So it's Thomas Griffin in Sacramento.
And I was also wondering...
I didn't realize there were questions. I was going to do it rapidly. I wouldn't have put it first. My apologies.
There has been, the board has received subsequent communication from attorneys regarding the contracts since Mr. Rowland had requested the information from board members and staff. So I'm wondering if that information is being included with the information that's provided to Mr. Griffin.
It was whatever Mr. Rowland provided. The question around it was what is responsive to the Public Records Act request, and that was produced by Mr. Rowland's office.
But there is a document that he did not receive, that the Board of Education received.
Well, it went through Mr. Rowland's office in terms of, no, the request went through Mr. Rowland's office, which was what is responsive to the Public Records Act request, and it was Mr. Rowland who produced all those documents. Nobody else was involved in that.
There were 2 Public Records Act requests. There was Mr. Borenstein's first request, and there was a subsequent one.
Okay, the one the board was asked to respond to was through that Public Records Act request to the board, and the idea was the attorney was coming in and you were going to hand over those confidential documents.
The idea was that I hand over all the documents.
Okay, so I would suggest if there's more discussion at this time, we bring this item back as well, or table it at this time and come back to it in a few minutes. But I would like, because I can see some folks in the front row here and people who had some public comments, we have 3 issues that I think have to be addressed tonight. So I'd like to bring that back at the end right now. I didn't realize there were questions or I wouldn't have skipped down to it. So I'm going to go back up to, my apologies, to 16.10, the potential multi-year lease of KVHS